we have the chairs spread out, so we're asking you to, of course, your own family unit is good to be together, but if not, to spread out as much as you can in the audience, that would be appreciated. We do have hand sanitizer over here by the door, and there are masks over here, a few. If anybody would like to have one, they're right over here by the front door. So we'll begin this evening with an invocation offered by Pastor Bobby, it's pronounced Truax, right? Is that right? Bobby, are you here? Pastor Porter is here. So we'll begin this evening with an invocation offered by Pastor Porter. And if you please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time and place. And Father, we admit in this moment how many times we have taken public gathering for granted. It's a good feeling here tonight with friends and colleagues and watching government at work. We thank you for those that are serving us. Father, our frontline responders, our first-line responders, Father, as well as the city staff, the mayor's office. God, we pray for our nation this evening. There are so many things that trouble us about what's going on and what has happened in the last week to 10 days. And we recognize you, Father, as the source of strength, source of comfort, source of grace, and ultimately the source of sustained peace in our land. So thank you, Father, for the privilege of coming together tonight to bring an invocation, to openly speak your name, and to ask for your blessing on this meeting this evening. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. For the clerk, roll, please.
Pollard?
Here.
McGee?
Here.
Allgood?
Here.
Wagner?
Here.
Hopper?
Here.
Coleman?
Here. Thank you. We do have a full council to hear the items of business before us this evening. We have Council Member Allgood and Council Member Pollard by Zoom tonight. And we are grateful that they're there. Mr. Allgood is suffering from an injury and not sure if he will be able to stay on phone call the entire time. So, Chris, if you need to drop off, just let us know. We don't want you to overdo it. And again, Mr. Pollard, we appreciate and respect your underlying health conditions and your concern about being here, and we wish you the best and look forward to seeing you when you can. We've spread out the council members tonight in respect of the guidelines from our health officials. It's nice to welcome Christine Wendelsdorf here tonight. She is Canyon County, I don't know what your emergency management.
Emergency Management Coordinator.
Okay, I was going to say director, but I knew it was emergency something. Yeah. Anyway, it's nice to have you here tonight, Christine, as well. I'd like to welcome all of you in the audience. It's a pleasure to have you here. This evening, we have, again, a full council. Are there any items on the agenda that present a conflict of interest for council members? All right, hearing none, we'll go forward. The first item, which we haven't been able to do for a couple months, it's a pleasure to be able to recognize one of our employees who has set an example for everyone in the city, and it's nice to be able to do that. And what we do is we have the ability once a month to recognize an employee. They could be acknowledged by their supervisor, by a fellow employee, by myself, by one of the appointed officials, or maybe sometimes even someone from the community. But we get those recommendations, and it's a pleasure to be able to acknowledge those individuals when they're recommended. I'd like to read the letter that was presented tonight about our Employee of the Month, and then we'll make the presentation here in just a moment. This is from Chief Wyand. I would like to formally nominate Caldwell Police Department Victim Witness Coordinator Liz Godina for the city employees, Caldwell City's Employee of the Month for February of 2020. Again, we're behind a couple months in the presentation. Liz has been a dedicated City of Caldwell employee since 2001. She began her career as a community service officer and spent time working in the records division. Over the years, I have witnessed her role at CPD change from CSO to Victim Witness Coordinator. Liz is now on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. ensuring she is available to victims of heinous crimes when they most need it. She is regularly called out from home in the middle of the night, on weekends, and on holidays to not only comfort and assist victims of domestic violence, but also child abuse, sexual assaults, and even helps to console people who may have lost a member due to car accidents, overdose, suicides, or even murder. During the month of February, Liz once again showed how valuable she is to the Colombo Police Department after a major incident that garnered national news attention at the Fort Stewart Senior Living Apartments, where 2 people died, another 2 people were shot and injured, and dozens of witnesses were traumatized due to an extreme act of violence. Liz did what she does best. She immediately stepped in to help the victims and witnesses as they tried to process something they all thought would never happen to them. She has tirelessly been in contact with residents from throughout the living facility, including those who were injured and their families. She has helped arrange victim services to assist with financial needs, provide resources to those who may need counseling for the trauma they endured, and most importantly, been a listening ear for many elderly who have been just looking for someone to talk to. During the same busy month, Liz has been staying in contact with a juvenile victim of a rape that occurred last summer. The case detective has since retired and a warrant has been issued for the adult suspect's arrest. However, without a current address, the suspect had been able to successfully avoid capture. Liz stayed in constant communication with the victim's mother, attempting to gather any and all information about the suspect that may help find him. She eventually turned the information she had gathered over to the United States Marshal's Fugitive Task Force. Within 2 days, the suspect had been located in another state where he had tried to avoid prosecution. He was taken into custody and is now being held on $500,000 bond for reportedly raping a child. Without her persistence, this man would most likely still be on the streets. Many of the other duties that Liz does on a daily basis go unnoticed because they don't involve handcuffs and police lines. However, that does not make them any less important. Her dedication to both her job and the victim she serves makes me proud to call her one of our own. I would respectfully request Caldwell Police Department Victim Witness Coordinator Liz Wagner be considered for the City of Colombo Employee of the Month for February of 2020. This is also from Lieutenant Foley, under the Investigations Division Commander. So it's with a great deal of honor, respect, and appreciation we acknowledge Liz Wagner as the Employee of the Month. Liz, congratulations.
It was a Kodak moment. I feel like him.
You go before you back if you want to. As long as we can get it on the record, that's the main thing, Liz. I apologize. Since it's an official meeting.
Okay. I thank you so much for having me here tonight, and I especially wanted to thank my family for always being my support when I go home, and my coworkers who I know 100% of the time have my back.
Would you like to introduce your family and your coworkers that are here to support you tonight? That'd be great if you would.
Yes.
I mean, we know them, but the audience doesn't. So.
My husband, Manny, and my sister-in-law, Virginia, and then my 3 daughters, Anita, Sabrina, and Olivia.
It's nice to have you all here. Chief, I know that there are some police officers here to support her tonight as well. Would you have the police officers stand, and yourself and Captain Riley, and introduce those who are here from the police department? You're one of them. You're one of them. And from the fire department.
Sergeant Cropper, Cheryl Wendell is one of our investigators, Captain Riley, and I think that's it.
I said, Chris, what about your husbands from the fire department? That's why I said and fire department, but your husband. Anyway, we would like to thank all of our first responders, especially, those who work so closely with Liz. Liz, it's sad that we need you. If you know, if you take that, if you know what I'm saying. It's too bad that we have, people in our community that need your services. Hopefully someday, we won't. But in the meantime, we thank every day, we thank God that you're here to take care of those wonderful people, in those difficult circumstances. And, that every department needs somebody like you that truly cares about what they do and the people that they work with. I know for a fact, in working around you for all the years that I have, your heart is as big as Texas. And thank heavens it is, because many people need that. And so when you take care of somebody, I know it's not just a job, it's genuine, it's who you are. You know, I think that there are angels here on earth to take care of people in need, and you're one of those angels. We appreciate you very much. Congratulations and thank you. Thank you. All right, that completes that presentation, and you're certainly welcome to stay, but if you need to leave, that's fine too, we understand completely, so, you got it. That brings us to audience participation. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council about an item that's not on the agenda? All right, then you have before you the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Pollard.
I move that we approve the consent calendar as printed.
Thank you. Is there a second? A second by Mr. McGee. Further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Pollard,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Allgood,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Hopper,
Yes.
Coleman.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Again, the items on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature or completions of previous actions taken by the city council. Some of them have to do with budget purchases that were already approved during the budget process. So that's what those items are in the consent calendar, and we move, have a motion for those all at one time. All right, that moves us to old business. This is a continued hearing, from May 18th. Yeah, it has been. And now we're finally here. Yeah, it's been continued, I think, back from maybe February or so when that started. This is a quasi-judicial case, known as case number PNN 1914 SUB 19 PLP. This is a request from Trilogy Idaho LLC and Kent Brown to annex 34.7 acres, more or less, with an R2 medium density residential zone. This public hearing was held already and begun previously, and we took all of the testimony from those who had signed up to speak. At the end of the testimony, the council made a motion to continue the public hearing to give staff time to research an issue regarding out parcels, as well as the issue that might cause for transportation because of the out parcel concerns. So we will continue this public hearing open at that point in the process. So we would ask for a report from staff. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I had recused myself originally, that's because I had worked with the applicant.
Right.
And it's been going on for a while, and so with my previous position, so with that, I will step away.
Thank you for reminding me, Councilmember Wagner. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and watch from the back. So again, Councilmember Wagner did recuse himself, did not participate in the original hearing, stepped away as he is doing now. So we will again open or continue this hearing. I will call it open at the point it was, and ask for Mr. McDonald's report. You were under oath at that time. If you would just acknowledge that again, I would sure appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was actually not in attendance last time. I'm the Public Works Director.
Then that's where you
So if I need to be sworn in.
You do. Could you please raise your hand?
You swear from the information given tonight, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Okay, now you're sworn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rob McDonald, for the record, 621 Cleveland Boulevard is my work address, and I have been sworn in. Like I mentioned, I was not at the previous meeting, but I was briefed by the Public Works Director and have had a few conversations with him and also with the city attorney's office. The concern that came up, as I understand it, is what to do specifically with on these developments with the out parcels that are adjacent, and how do we formulate these out parcels and the frontages to be completed as part of the
as part of the out parcels, as part of the developments, I should say. The process that the city has been, I guess, pushing forward on the engineering department over the last maybe year is that, up until a year ago, we had always put that, request on the developer to approach the property owners and request from the property owners a dedication of right-of-way. And then it was up to that out parcel property owner to decide if they wanted to or not. And then depending on what they decided would determine what the developer was going to build along the frontage. About a year ago, we had a policy change within the engineering department where we had decided that we would pursue acquiring the right-of-way on the city side and alleviate that responsibility from the developer, whereas to eliminate potentially a conflict of interest. And so the city engineering department staff would approach these property owners and negotiate with them to acquire this right-of-way, which would then be, if dedicated by those property owners, would then be a responsibility of the developer to improve that frontage. On this case specifically, there are 4 out parcels adjacent to the development. There is one on Marble Front, there are 2 on Smead, and then there's one on the corner of Marble Front and Smead. Over the past several months, we have approached and contacted all 4 property owners. The engineering department has received dedications from 3 of the property owners, the 2 on Smead and then the one up on Marble Front. The only property that we are still negotiating or working with is the corner parcel, that is the largest frontage of out parcel. After some discussions with the city attorney's office, we had determined, and if I understand correctly, in the last meeting there was discussion about changing the process and maybe putting more burden on the developer to approach these property owners and negotiate for right-of-way. And certainly at least put the financial obligation on the developer. What we have determined in the engineering department and working with the attorney's office is that what works best, what we feel works best is for the engineering department to continue approaching the property owners. And then as we negotiate the right-of-way costs are offset by mitigation that is collected or due by the development. And then the properties that are not willing to negotiate are the properties that we may look at just having developers do development in the prescriptive right-of-way, which is the, I don't know how to define prescriptive right-of-way. It's basically the legal obligation of where the road would be, even if the right-of-way is not dedicated. And so, moving forward in this manner, I feel like it gives us the option to work better with the property owner, to also have the option of just having development occur within the prescriptive right-of-way, but at the same time, we're able to use the mitigation from these developments to help offset these right-of-way purchases if needed. And so I don't know, I'm kind of rambling a little bit. I don't know if that answers, I hope that answers the question. That's the direction that we would prefer to continue to move in. Was there anything specific that I am missing from the previous discussion that you may be looking for an answer on?
I don't think so. I think the issue that we were discussing was the inability to improve roadways around the subdivision, proposed subdivision, because of already congested roads in that area. If those roads were not able to be fully developed to allow passage of traffic and move traffic smoothly, it would complicate both safety and level of service in those areas. I think that was the comments I heard from council, if I remember correctly. Mr. Pollard, Chris, all good? Or either one of you have any other? I'm seeing head shaking here from other council members, but I can't see that with you. Are there anything that I'm missing regarding the concerns?
No, sir, not for me.
Okay, Mr. Pollard? Okay. So I think that covered it, Chris, was the concern that those out parcels would continue to be left out and not be developed. And then what does that do to the traffic flow and congestion and safety within those areas? So I think that answers the question. Any questions from council for For Mr. McDonald, yes.
And if I could just add one more thing, the out parcel on the corner that we are still working with, that was still, even if we don't have it before tonight, which we knew that that may be an option or a possibility, if we do get it before the development moves into that area, that would be a requirement, a frontage requirement that would be due. However, that would be part of their mitigation, so it wouldn't be something above and beyond, it would be something that their mitigation would participate in the construction of that frontage. And hopefully that was the understanding that you had. Okay.
All right, questions from council for Mr. McDonald, Mr. Hopper?
Mr. Conrad, I guess I'm still really concerned about that particular intersection. If we don't have good sidewalks, we don't have good connectivity through there, with the schools nearby and the potential for pedestrian and vehicular, intermixing is a concern. So, there has to be a way that we can mitigate that somehow, in development or some way so that if there is a pedestrian desert there, that we do something to mitigate the safety problem.
Thank you.
So, again, the three of the four parcels have agreed. If council, if it's that big of a concern to you, can certainly continue this again until the fourth parcel agrees. I know that there's ability to construct the road, but the sidewalk is what you're concerned about. That's certainly something you can do, or if you feel like you have enough information, you can move forward tonight. But that's council's option. The annexation is the first item. Of course, that is contingent upon, best interest of the city of Caldwell. If you feel like it hasn't reached that point yet, then you certainly can continue it. However, if you would like to give staff the chance to go ahead and get that fourth parcel negotiated, that's certainly an option as well. So.
Thanks, Mayor.
Mr. Carlson.
Mr. Mayor?
Just a second, Mr. Pollard. Mr. Carlson first, and then I'll come back to you.
Mr. McDonald, if we don't have that fourth area, and we get a couple of years later, these guys are still in phase 2 or 3 of the development, will they still be held accountable to develop that then?
Yeah, the way and I apologize, I don't have the agreement in front of me, but it's open for them to have to complete those obligations up until they get to the phase that is adjacent to that area. Once they've completed that phase there, then if we haven't acquired the right-of-way yet at that point, then it would be the city's obligation to use other mitigation funding to go back and have that completed. But we are still pursuing, and we're pushing hard to try to get the right-of-way from this last parcel so that we can complete this all the way through. We recognize, this whole area here, Marble Front, the south side is getting constructed all the way across this whole area from Aviation almost over to KCID, and the 2 schools are going in and other developments. So we feel like it is critical, and that is why we have taken the initiative and worked pretty diligently on trying to get these right-of-ways acquired. So,
Mr. Pollard. I'm sorry, that's your question, Mr. Pollard.
Yes. I apologize. I didn't hear Mr. Hopper's comment. I don't know whether his microphone was off or what. Can you summarize what his thoughts were?
Rob, do you mind getting closer to your microphone and speaking in so I don't mischaracterize your comment?
Sorry, Mike. I'm still very concerned about the not having pedestrian infrastructure there at the corners of Marble Front. With all of the schools in the area and potential for foot traffic and that being an important means of crossing the roads, not having any kind of pedestrian infrastructure there concerns me.
Did you hear that, Mike?
I did. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you raise your hand, Mr. McGee?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I just had a quick question, if I might.
Please.
Mr. McDonald, I may have missed this, but forgive me if I did, but the discussions with the fourth party, are you comfortable characterizing those for us? Are they progressing, or can you give us some sort of indication how that's?
Yeah, what I can indicate is the owner lives in California. They have a representative here in Idaho. I have personally spoken with the property owner, and TJ Franz in the engineering department has also spoken with the property owner and the representative. And they have been they've been, cooperative. They do have concerns about having anything done before the end of, the irrigation and farming season. And so they would be, they sounded like they wanted to, they're kind of holding off until the end of the farming season, and then they would be more willing to talk about negotiation. And the one thing, I will mention one other thing that, the applicant just mentioned to me, is there is a, along the drain, which basically, cuts across the corner, hold on one second. This is the corner here that we're talking about, that we are still in negotiation for. There is a sidewalk that is being constructed, a pathway that is being constructed along this drain that will actually provide connectivity, to both roads. So in the event that we are not able to get this corner, there is still at least some pedestrian access across there, for people to get from Marble Front down to Smeaton.
Other questions from Mr. McDonald? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, again, that was the report that the council asked back. The public hearing, public testimony portion of the hearing has been conducted in the previous city council meeting. That was your concern. So at this stage of the game, you have the ability to ask questions of staff or any person who has testified, that was at that hearing and signed in and testified. You can certainly close the public hearing, public testimony portion of the hearing, and move forward with the decision-making process. You can continue it again with the public testimony portion of the hearing open and ask staff to bring back a result on the fourth parcel, or you can go ahead with the decision-making process now. Whichever way you'd like to do, it's your call and your decision. So, is there any comment or motion or question? First of all, questions from council?
Mr.
Mayor, this is Bruce.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
The annexation, is it affecting just this parcel or any of the other four as well?
The annexation is for 34.7 acres, and it includes, the corner that's in reference is an out parcel that is being requested to be completed. So the annexation, is where you have the ability to put together the, when you first bring forward an annexation, the development agreement is put together, and then also the preliminary plat. So that's where the conditions are, but they're separate. So the annexation goes first, and you can either approve it or not, and then the plat is where the conditions would be assigned for the out parcels.
Mr. I think with the question, are any out parcels part of annexation, which they are not?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Any of the other property owners want to be annexed as well, is what I was asking.
I'm sorry, Mr. Allgood, I totally misunderstood your question. The answer is no. Those are all out parcels at this stage that are not requesting to be annexed. Correct, Mr. Thank you. I'm sorry, I totally missed your question. Any other question?
Mr. Mayor, procedurally, I know that it looks like there are some people who have testified on this issue before, previously, to have some information to add. Procedurally, do we need to ask them questions, or are they allowed to add additional information?
Yeah, once the public hearing is, we've gone through the public testimony portion of the hearing. There was a specific question asked for staff to report back on the out parcels. So at that point in time, we're done with public testimony, because again, it can't be, we'd have to open up the whole thing and start over again. And that's not the way the public hearing process works, unfortunately. So if we did that for one, we have to do it for all, and basically start over.
Thank you, Mayor.
Now, you can ask somebody a question if you have a question.
But the question now. Okay, thank you.
You bet. So, any other questions from council, or any person who has testified? Okay, what is your desire?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to close the public hearing and
That's public
public testimony.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Mayor and Council, I apologize, there's been a question raised about whether or not the applicant was offered an opportunity for rebuttal. And I don't know if the court has the minutes from the prior hearing, if that occurred or not.
Yes, there was a rebuttal given.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. I apologize, I had that in front of me, and so I apologize, I didn't mean to ignore you, were you trying to get my attention?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I had rebutted before,
Yes.
but that was before the world went crazy, so.
Yeah.
Lost them.
Yeah, again, you can see my memory it's been a little while ago, and I apologize. But again, what we did is we completely went through the process. We were beginning to go down the path of either closing the public testimony portion of the hearing. That's when council had the questions about the out parcels. So therefore, that's when they continued at that point, which is after everything has occurred. Okay? So, does that answer your question, Mr. Waterman? Okay. Any questions from council? Again, there's a motion on the floor to close the public testimony portion of the hearing. Second by Mr. McGee. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay?
No.
Okay. The public testimony portion of the hearing has been closed 4 to 1. That motion does carry, so that we will begin the decision-making process. And again, Mr. Hopper, at any point in time, you can continue this and make a motion to reopen if you decide you want to do that. But the first thing I need to do is to read into the record the evidence list as I have it, and ask for council to consider the approval of that. Now, again, just as a reminder, because it has been a little bit of time since we held this hearing, right? That you have 2 action items that are, I'm sorry, we can't do it that way.
But things changed after I had given my right-of-way. I still don't have anything in writing saying that I'm going to get access to sewer and water. That's all by, I have nothing legally.
And again, I'm sorry, but the public hearing has just been closed by the city council.
But that wasn't explained to me, sir. And so I've been negotiating with Caldwell, and I've been working.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to cut you off.
Okay,
I
all right,
apologize.
thank you.
So there's 2 actions, again, the council can choose to make. And Rob can answer your question, we just can't do anything with the public hearing portion of it. So there's 2 actions that are required. One is first the annexation, and if that is approved, then we go to the subdivision preliminary plat, okay? And so the first action we'll be taking will be the subdivision plat, the annexation, and however, the evidence list is for both actions that we're taking tonight, so it will be approved for both actions. So I have for your approval, and Mr. Waterman, if you will please make sure that I have this in order. I have the staff report, sign-up sheets, aerial of ANN 1915 SUP 19B08, CC 1000, which is the aerial of the airport overlay zone, CC 1001, which is the aerial of the comprehensive plan map, CC 1002, which is reading my hand here, what's the name of it? Maple West, Marble Front West. Can't read my own handwriting. I was hurrying when I write these things. Marble Front West, and the data that went along with that. CC 1003 was the group of housing slides. CC 1004 is the aerial of the subdivision plot. CC 1005, which is the PowerPoint presented by Cindy Simpson. CC 1006, which is the PowerPoint presented by Kirby Glendeman. Is that everything you have, Mr. Waterman? Okay. All right, I'll ask for council's approval of the evidence list as presented.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the evidence list as presented.
Is there a second? Motion by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. McGee, to approve the evidence list as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? I'm sorry, I have to wait for those. I apologize, Mike and Chris. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. Let's go to the annexation request then. The first thing that would be to consider would be the comprehensive plan analysis.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
I would move that we accept comprehensive plan analysis and staff report under Roman 5.
Thank you. We have a motion, is there a second? Second. A motion by Mr. Carlson, a second by Mr. McGee, to approve the comprehensive plan analysis as outlined in the staff report under Roman numeral 5. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Wait,
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. I would ask for council's, findings of fact.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
the Colombo City Council accepts the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and the evidence of all adopted city ordinance, standards, and codes were used in evaluation of the application.
Is there a second? A motion by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. McGee, to approve the findings of fact as outlined in his motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. I would ask for council's conclusions of law.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
the Colombo City Council has the authority to hear this case, order that it be approved or denied. The public notification requirements were met, the hearing was legally noticed and posted in the hearing itself, and conducted under the requirements of the Idaho Code and City Ordinance.
Thank you. There's a motion on conclusions. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Allgood. Any further discussion on conclusions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. I would ask for council's order of decision on the annexation only.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
based on the finding of facts and conclusion of law, the Colombo City Council hereby orders that case number A-1914, a request by Trilogy, Idaho, and Kent Brown to annex 34.7 acres, more or less, with an R2, medium density residential zoning designation, with an annexation agreement for the property located at south side of Marble Front Road, approximately 1,800 feet east of Aviation Way, parcel number R352790000 in Caldwell, Idaho, is approved with the following conditions listed in the staff report.
Thank you. A motion by Mr. Carlson. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McGee. Further discussion on the motion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Carlson,
Yes.
Pollard. Pollard,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Allred,
Yes.
Wagner, is, abstained, Hopper,
No.
Okay, motion carries on the annexation. We'll start over again then with the subdivision plat. This is for case number, SUB 19P08. Again, the finding, or excuse me, the evidence list has already been approved. So I would ask your, first approval of the comprehensive plan analysis.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
I would move that we accept the comprehensive plan analysis under Roman numeral 10 in the staff report.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. A motion by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. McGee, to approve the comprehensive plan analysis as outlined in the staff report under Roman numeral 10. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay?
No.
Okay, motion carries. I would ask for the findings of fact.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
the Colombo City Council accept the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and the evidence of all adopted city ordinances, standards, and codes were used in evaluating the application.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Carlson for findings of fact. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. McGee. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously on the findings of fact. Conclusions of law.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Allgood.
the
Colorado City Council has the authority to hear this case and recommend to the Colorado City Council that it be approved or denied. The public notice requirements were met, the hearing was legally noticed and posted, and the hearing was held and conducted under the requirements of Idaho Code and city ordinances.
Thank you. We have a motion from Mr. Allgood regarding conclusions. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McGee. Any further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Allgood,
Yes.
Hopper,
Yep.
Paulson,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes. Thank you. Order of decision.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
based on the findings of facts and conclusions of law, the Colombo City Council orders that case number SUP 19P-08, a request by Trilogy, Idaho and Campground for preliminary plot approval of Marble Front West subdivision, consisting of 34 acres, more or less, to be subdivided into 132 residential lots and 16 common lots of the property located south side of Marble Front Road, approximately 1,800 feet east of Aviation Way. Parcel number R 352790000 in Caldwell, Idaho, is approved with the conditions listed in the staff report.
Thank you. A motion for approval by Mr. Carlson. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. The motion is for approval with the conditions as outlined in the staff report. Any further discussion? Clerk call the roll, please.
Paulson,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Allgood,
Yes.
Hopper.
No.
Thank you very much. Motion carries. That completes the public testimony portion of the hearing, the decision-making portion of the hearing. We are now ready for motion to close the public hearing. A motion by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. Allgood. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. The public hearing has been closed. Then let's move to the companion document for action item number 1, which is the bill, known as Bill number 54, ordinance number 3246, for case number ANN 1914, known as the Marble Front West annexation, with a request to waive the rules, pass it on the first reading, and to approve the summary for publication. I will read this bill by its title only. This is Bill number 54, ordinance number 3246, an ordinance determining that certain land lays contiguous to the city limits of the city of Caldwell, County of Canyon, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed to the city of Caldwell, Idaho, as part of the R2 medium density residential zone, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the city of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the city of Caldwell, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the clerk of the city of Caldwell to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code, Section 63-215.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
I would move that we waive the 3 reading rule to consider bill number 54, ordinance number 3246 on its first reading by title only.
Thank you. Is there a second? I have a motion by Mr. Carlson, and a second by Mr. McGee, to waive the 3 reading process to consider bill number 54 on ordinance number 3246 on its first reading by title only. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Paulson,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Allgood,
Yes.
Hopper.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended.
Mr. Mayor, I will sponsor bill number 54, ordinance 3246, move for its passage and approve the summary for publication.
Thank you. A motion by Mr. Carlson. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. McGee, to sponsor bill number 54, ordinance number 3246, move for its passage on its first reading by title only, and to approve the summary for publication. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Paulson,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Allgood,
Yes.
Hopper.
No.
All right, motion carries 4-1. That completes item number 2, which is the companion document to the public hearing that was just held. That completes all the items, so before I do that, for those in attendance for that public hearing, there is an appeal period of 28 days based upon the approval of the both annexation and subdivision plat. It begins once the, order of decision has been approved by city council, which will be at the next city council meeting. So 28 days from that point forward. Unfortunately, council members and myself are not able to be contacted regarding the decision, but after that, we can. However, staff can be contacted against rules of ex parte communication, and that's the way those rules work. So, that completes that action under old business and moves us to new business item number 1. This is a public hearing regarding the exchange of real property between Two Bridges Associates LP and the city of Caldwell. This has been requested by the applicant to continue this public hearing to the next regularly set scheduled city council meeting to be held on Monday, June 5th at 7 p.m. in these chambers. So if there's a motion from council to do that. Thank you. A motion from Mr. Carlson. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McGee to continue action item, new business action item number 1, which is the public hearing regarding property between Two Bridges LP and the city of Caldwell, to a time and date certain, which will be 7 p.m. June 15th, here in these council chambers. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Oh, I'm sorry, I gotta wait for the phone call. Let me do that again. All opposed? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
There's a delay between what the Zoom thing, I apologize. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. All right, and again, I apologize, doing Zoom meetings is something to get used to, so I apologize. The next item, which is action item number 2, is to consider bill number 22, ordinance number 3279, to annex Adams Ridge, phase number 2, subdivision number 2, into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District, and this is brought forward this evening with the request to waive the rules and pass it on its first reading by title only. Again, this is a voluntary action. The city does have a municipal irrigation district when subdivisions are developed. They are built to the city standards for those irrigation operations. Once the subdivisions are completed, they request us to take over those irrigation districts so that we can manage them. Again, once they've been built at the expense of the developer, then we do manage them from that point on. So again, this is a voluntary request, and so I'll read this bill by its title only and ask for council's consideration. This is known as Bill number 22, ordinance number 3279, an ordinance of the city of Caldwell, Idaho, annexing a portion of property within the corporate city limits into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District of the city of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, and changing the boundaries thereof, directing the city engineer to alter the boundary map accordingly, declaring the intent of the city to pool water rights and apply a uniform method of allocating assessments and charges and providing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
I would move that we waive the 3 reading rule, consider ordinance 22, or bill number 22, ordinance 3279, and first reading of title only.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Got a motion by Mr. Carlson, a second by Mr. Hopper to waive the 3 reading process to consider bill number 22, ordinance number 3279 on its first reading by title only. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Carlson?
Yes.
Pollard?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
August? All good? Wagner?
Yes.
Hopper?
All right, the rules have been suspended. You have the bill before you.
Mr. Mayor, I will sponsor bill number 22, ordinance 3279, and move for its passage.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. Hopper to sponsor bill number 22, ordinance number 3279, move for its passage on its first reading by title only. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Carlson?
Yes.
Pollard?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
All good? Wagner?
Yes.
Hopper?
Yep.
Thank you very much. The ordinance has been passed unanimously on its first reading by title only. Again, that's an annexation into the Colombo Municipal Irrigation District. The next item is like unto it. It is to consider bill number 23, ordinance number 3280, to annex 3901 Skyway Street into the Colombo Municipal Irrigation District with a request to waive the rules and pass on its first reading by title only. Again, this is an action just like we just took. It's voluntary action to be, annexed into the Municipal Irrigation District, and so I will read this bill by its title only, and ask for council's consideration. Bill number 23, ordinance number 3280, an ordinance of the city of Caldwell, Idaho, annexing a portion of property within the corporate city limits into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District of the city of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, and changing the boundaries thereof, directing the city engineer to alter the boundary map accordingly, declaring the intent of the city to pool water rights and apply a uniform method of allocating assessments and charges, and providing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Wagner.
I move that we waive the three reading process and consider bill number 23, ordinance number 3280, on its first reading by title only.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Wagner, a second by Mr. Hopper to waive the three reading process to consider bill number 23, ordinance number 3280, on its first reading by title only. Will the clerk call the roll?
Wagner,
Yes.
Hopper,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
The rules have been suspended. You have the bill before you.
Mr. Mayor, I will sponsor bill number 23, ordinance number 3280, move for its passage on its first reading by title only.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Wagner, second by Mr. Hopper, to sponsor bill number 23, ordinance number 3280, move for its passage on its first reading by title only. Mr. Alkin, do we have you back on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. All right, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Wagner,
Yes.
Hopper, Paulson,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Alden.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Bill number 23, ordinance number 3280 has been, passed unanimously on its first reading by title only. And since we have a couple of members of the legislature here tonight, I will explain what we just did. Not that they need to be explained, but just because they're here, I'll explain it to the rest of the audience. In times past, governmental bodies were required to read ordinances in their entirety 3 times in public. That's a very lengthy and complicated process. And in some instances, the council can still choose to do that. However, the legislature did allow local governments to choose, by motion, to waive that 3 reading process and to consider these bills on their first reading. Usually the council will do that when it's considered routine in nature, something simple like a voluntary annexation to the municipal irrigation district. So that has really helped in the process. What you saw earlier also that has really helped is the legislature also used to require us to publish ordinances in their entirety in the newspaper. That obviously is a very expensive process. You can imagine posting a 35 or 40-page ordinance in the newspaper, the cost associated with that. And it was very expensive for the taxpayers of municipalities and governmental entities. So again, what has been allowed, which we did a couple of motions ago, is that the attorneys are allowed to write a summary of the ordinance, which is usually a few paragraphs. And then the ordinance itself is kept, of course, in its entirety in the clerk's office. Also, it is codified in city archives and online forever. And so we have those full documents always available for public review. But because it's expensive, and again, we appreciate this from the legislature, that we can publish a summary of that in the newspaper rather than the entire thing, which saves a lot of money in the process. So we do appreciate those 2 things. Now, again, those are held by a roll call vote. There are some things that I cannot vote on. As you notice, I haven't voted on anything tonight because it hasn't been necessary. Had there been a tie, which there could have been because there was only 5 members of the council on the quasi-judicial matter, I could have voted on that. But because it is a procedural variance to waive a 3 reading process, it's required that the council have a majority in favor of that in order to suspend that rule. So, in this case, if there were 6 council members, the tie was 3-3, the motion fails. I cannot vote to break the tie. So that's just some information I thought you might be interested in what we have done tonight to get through those items very quickly because, again, a voluntary annexation into a municipal irrigation district shouldn't take weeks and weeks to get done, nor should it take dollars and dollars in the newspaper to get it accomplished. So that's an example of some of the procedural rules that are available to us as local government entities. And we do appreciate the legislature allowing us to do that. So thank you to those who who were involved. I don't think either one of you were around, maybe Jim, you've been there forever. I think you said it right, I apologize.
Not quite, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All righty, anyway, that's an explanation of what we just did. So thank you for bearing with me for that. Through that, the next item is the financial report. Who's going to do that tonight?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Pollard.
the Finance Committee has reviewed current accounts payable in the amount of $3,171,471.57 for the period ending May 26, 2020, and the net payroll in the amount of $387,649.63 for pay period ending May 9, 2020. I move that accounts payable in the amount of $3,171,471.57, represented by check numbers 145845 and 146109, and payroll for the amount of $387,649.63, represented by check numbers 34,569 through 34,597, and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of city clerk.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Pollard, a second by Mr. Hopper to approve the financial report as presented. Further discussion from council? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. Council reports. Mr. Pollard.
Nothing, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Carlson.
I would just like to say that it's nice to be back. I miss Chris and Mike. I hope they're both doing well. But this whole process has been a community process, and I think it's just commendable to the community to keep this pandemic as small as we possibly can. So I'm very happy that it has turned out as well as it has, and hope that everyone will remain and continue to be safe.
Thank you. Mr. Hopper.
I just want to say that I have missed Mr. Potter. Glad to have you and Mr. Potter here again.
Well, we're glad that you're here to be able to give the invitation in case the other person doesn't show up. And you've done that on several, in fact, we should just make you kind of like the city council pastor or something. Thank you, both of you, for always being willing to do that. Thank you, Mr. Hopper. Mr. Wagner?
It's good to be here among all of you and to see your faces. One bad thing is I was feeling pretty good about my beard until I saw Mr. Hopper, and I'm feeling a little remiss. I'm not nearly quite there.
The advantage of this COVID has given me is that I now have a timeline for if I ever want to become Santa Claus. I know how long it's going to take. It's about a year, but now I know. That's what's going.
So, but it is good to be back. I mean, it's good to move forward and just excited to be back and do it in person again. So it's good to be with all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. I thought maybe we needed to take up a donation or something, buy you a razor. I thought maybe you'd run out of razors. No, matter of fact, Mr. Kelsey has shaved his off, and so I'm expecting good things here. No, you look great.
Well,
I'm just jealous because I can't grow here.
So
I'm just jealous because I can't grow here. All right, let's see, who'll be next? Mr. Albee.
Nothing for me, sir.
Hope you get feeling better very soon.
Thank you.
Mr. McGee?
Thank you, Mayor. Just very quickly, for any small business owners who might be in attendance, or for any of us who know small business owners, we've been involved with an effort called Kickstart Caldwell. It's an effort to provide resources to small businesses here in town to help them get restarted after the COVID-19 shutdowns. And so there's a great website. Mayor's staff has done a tremendous job of helping us out with that, and we're grateful for that. It's a group of interested business people here in town who have come together and provided a clearinghouse for people who want to get their businesses kick-started, ready to go all over again. So encourage people to visit that if they have questions about the governor's recommendations, what needs to be done over their business, personal protective equipment, any of those sorts of things we can answer on that website. And your staff, again, Mayor, has been very helpful with that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Just real quickly, a couple comments. As far as my calendar says, today is March 93rd. And I can tell you the year of March was the longest year of my life. You know, sometimes you just have to smile because there's other things, you know. But again, it's been a very, very unique and unprecedented time in this country and the state and city, the world that we live in. I can honestly tell you that there is no playbook for any of this. We can't go back and look at what we did last time, because there was no last time, at least in my lifetime. So we have done things the best that we can. We have followed the governor's guidelines and those health officials from day one. As soon as they did that, we have complied and we have followed. I can honestly tell you that I have received emails who think we're the biggest idiots on the planet, and I won't use the language that they used. But I can also tell you we've received emails from people who think that we haven't done enough. And so it's always hard to find that balance in the community. But I can tell you that every decision that has been made in the city has been made with a lot of input from staff, from employees, from chamber, from community partners, from the school district, from our health officials, from the governor's office. We have been in constant communication. I don't know the last time I've had this many conversations with other mayors and, law enforcement officials and public safety officials. When I first started, I thought Good Morning Dr. Zog was a radio show or something. But I found out that, I've known Nikki for a long time, it was a joke. It didn't work, sorry. Anyway, Nikki Zog, who is the director of the District 3 Southwest District Health, is a very intelligent and thoughtful person, and the staff works with her, Christine Wendelsdorf. So, as we move through this process, we have done methodically and making decisions that we hoped and felt were in the best interest of our community, but also in harmony with the guidelines and guidance of the health officials that understand these things. So, that's why we haven't had city council meetings. That's why City Hall has been closed. That's why at first we closed the golf course to allow for some information to be passed along. We reopened those things. We again Kickstart Caldwell program is something we've tried to do to help our businesses reopen based upon the timeline set forth in the governor's order. First the stay-at-home order and then the stay healthy order, and that's what we're doing. So tonight. We are now going to discuss briefly what the recommendation is from staff, from the health officials, and from myself regarding the 4th of July activities. Just to give you a little bit of update on last, I believe, Thursday, there were guidelines released for mass gatherings. And even though some of those mass gatherings are after phase 4 or stage 4, whichever, decisions still have to be made now in regards to whether those activities move forward, because you can't plan them overnight, right? They have to be planned in advance. There's still a requirement right now to submit plans to Southwest District Health to hold those events, which we're in the process of putting together for those that we are going to proposally hold, to get those things reviewed to make sure that they are appropriate. So I sent out emails to council members, I believe 2 or 3 days ago, with the recommendations that we have made as far as staff is concerned. And again, this includes our health officials, city staff. We are recommending that we hold the fireworks because we believe we can meet the guidelines set forth. And actually, we've been to the fireworks at Brothers Park. People have been social distancing there for years. Because you throw out a blanket and your family's here and another family, people aren't watching them in the stands. They are watched from cars, from the YMCA, from the high school, from Canyon Hill. You can see the fireworks pretty much everywhere. And so people have been social distancing there without even being asked to, without a pandemic. So we believe we can submit a plan that, again, we will recommend that those that are vulnerable stay home and watch it from their rooftops or cars or backyards. That if you do come, please be careful, social distance, put your families apart from other families, enjoy the fireworks. If you have symptoms, don't come. If you're concerned, wear a mask. Those are all the requirements that we'll put out with that, and we believe we can meet those requirements. However, in reviewing the parade and activities in the park, we feel that's a different scenario. There are several things that went into that. Number one, in trying to get volunteers for the event, we're having a hard time getting people to volunteer. Whether it's because of COVID or concerns about being willing to put their families in jeopardy. Normally, we would have 25 or 30 volunteers by this time, and I think we have 3. Pretty difficult to put on a parade with 3 volunteers. Some of the things we talked about in the park, the cleaning that would be required if we're still, again, to protect the volunteers and employees. Again, that was the discussion. It's not so much the public has the right to make their own choice, but it's volunteers that are putting themselves in that position. Maybe nothing happens, but we don't want to put them in a position that compromises their health or their safety. So it is recommended, and then also other things have happened recently that put us in an even a little bit different scenario, and that is the God and Country Rally has been canceled. The Tampa Snake River Stampede has been canceled. Just for information, the Reno Rodeo has been canceled. Cheyenne Frontier Days has been canceled. And these are all large events that I think people are just struggling to figure out how they carry those out and still protect people and that type of thing. So what happens then, and around the valley, multiple activities around the valley have been canceled as well. So what that does, if you hold one, that tends to bring more people to your community, which then causes even more concern about how do we meet those requirements put forth by Southwest District Health. So based upon all that information, and I'm saying in 3 or 4 minutes what we talked about for 3 weeks, an hour at a time, over the past few weeks, and that's just the synopsis of it. But that's what we sent out. We are certainly asking for council's input, but the recommendation from myself and the appointed officials and the Southwest District Health Department, in communication with Dr. Zahn, is that we hold the 4th of July fireworks, but that we cancel the parade and activities in the park. So that's your recommendation, and council members, you're more than welcome to give us your opinion. It's ultimately your decision. Ours is a recommendation. You're the governing body. But take all those things into consideration that I just conveyed to you. So any comments from council or discussion?
Mayor, go ahead, Tom.
Mr. Meeky.
Thank you, Mayor. You said a couple of things that I was not necessarily aware of yet, and in helping me formulate a decision here, an educated vote. On the volunteers, that's such a big part of what we've done on this parade. I've been involved in volunteering in this parade before. I didn't do it the last couple of years, but I have, and that is a monster. And it is a
Time to take a minute.
time for me to be quiet around my wife. It's a monster, and that is a concerning number that you just rattled off. That at this time, there were 30 volunteers or 30 signed up, and last year, now there are.
That's an approximate.
Now there are 3. That's concerning, because I've been a part of this, I know, and it takes a huge effort to pull this off, not to mention police and other city employees have to be involved. A couple of other things that, after you sent this out, I've been trying to get my arms around as well. The McCall has also, they have canceled their fireworks display, which we've been able to keep together, which I think is good. Also, I think a lot of people don't realize that the Caldwell Rodeo, which is as big an event in the community as anything else, though they have not canceled, and I don't know that they will.
I don't know.
They are having discussions, I think, week tonight.
As we speak.
Yeah, I believe the rodeo board is meeting tonight to determine whether or not they can you know, to those people next to each other. And so there's a lot going on here, besides just wanting to do a great Fourth of July event. This is like no other event in my lifetime, no other period of my lifetime, where we're up against so many different obstacles in trying to do a major event like that. So I have some concerns about the event in the park and people being that close together. I have some concerns about the parade. I take my kids to the parade every year. We visit Brian and Casey Porter's house on the corner, the corner escapes me right now. We sit there every year and we watch Clyde the Camel and we watch all the, you know, and it's a great time. We get dressed up, red, white, and blue, and it's a great event for my family. But this is different.
I think I started throwing candy to you when you were a kid.
It's probably true, but it just, Mayor, it goes to show.
32 years ago, so
Yeah.
I guess that you were young.
I was going to say earlier, there was another event, it was 1918, but you weren't quite the mayor.
No.
Before, it was 1918.
Just barely.
Barely. But Mayor, I've got real concerns about doing it in that manner. I mean, the fact that we have staff members here from, you know, the health department and Southwest District Health, it just tells you the environment that we're living in right now. It is different than it has been in the past. I just want to acknowledge the challenges that we're up against.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman?
I just, you know, the celebrations of God and Country and the Snake River Stampede and all of the other different events are for nothing less than they are traditional. But this is not a traditional year. To do something like this and bring people together in close proximity, it takes one person coming in there being sick, and we really could start this thing all over again. And, you know, when I was on the fire department, one of the things that we always said was, if you're gonna make a mistake, always make it on the side of safety. Don't do it on the side of negligence. And so, I support what the guidelines that you have considered, and I don't think we should go much further than that.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Wagner? I think I'm gonna be the odd man out on this one, and I, you know, have taken a lot of this, you know, into consideration, and I think, you know, the big part is really the volunteers and the employees, you know, people that, maybe don't either feel like they're required to, or that they need to step up and putting their own health first when they really don't want to. And so that really is where a lot of my, I guess, my heart weighs in that regard. But I think that, you know, I just reached out, and I've talked to lots of different people. I've talked to police officers, I've talked to firefighters, you know, because maybe they see things a lot different than I do in regards to that. And most of them didn't have the same concerns. A lot of the police officers actually said, you know, we like that overtime, we need it. We'd rather have it. And again, as you mentioned too, that there is a wide gamut of people from stay home for the next 6 years and don't go out your door to let's go have a party tomorrow and get everybody together. And I respect all that, because that's their opinion and that's the way they think, and you need to respect that. And some people may not know, I'm a bishop of a local church congregation. We got to meet yesterday for the first time in a couple months, and it was awesome. And it was amazing to get together. And yeah, we respected everybody, because again, you have that total gamut, even in that church congregation, with people that are somewhat similar minded, but they still all over the board. And so we wanted to make sure we respected all sides of it. You know, I'd like to look further, see if there is a way, and I get it with the volunteers, there's not a lot. I bet you we could double that number tonight with some of the people that are here that could step up and say, you know what, all volunteer, we'll get a group of crew together. Can we scale it back? Maybe we just do the parade, and we limit the number of floats that are in the parade. I think it's a good time to get people together. My wife and I went up to I almost said McCall was mentioned, but we went to Cascade this weekend, and it was so good to get up there. And my wife commented on the way back that, you know, somebody opened the door for her more than me. I should do that more, but we were at a restaurant. Somebody opened the door for her. She noticed that hasn't happened in the last 2 or 3 months, because people just don't want to get close and stay away. She said it felt so good. People were still aware of it, but they they were, I think, nice. Not that we're not nice, but it's just there was a difference there. And so, if there's any way that we can get back to that normal, we're still respecting people's opinions in that matter, if we can maybe take 2 more weeks and see if we can find the volunteers, and if we just can't, okay, then we're done. You know, we're not gonna put those people in harm's way, but if we can find the employees and volunteers to do it, perhaps we could wait two weeks to see. And I know that's kind of getting to a crunch time, maybe that gives a chance for the word out more, there's more people aware of it, that would step up to volunteer. That would be my thought, if there was any type of motion, that would be my motion, desire to move in that direction.
Sure.
Good job.
My concern has a lot to do with the volunteers and the fact that with Melbourne canceled and with virtually every other 4th of July event in the valley canceled, if we're the only game in town, then we're likely to have record crowds. And a limited volunteer staff and people coming in from the entire valley to Caldwell is a little frightening. And so I think even doing the fireworks alone means we have to have extra people and extra ability to keep people safe and separate that we've never done before. And those are my concerns. I don't disagree with Mr. Wagner to a great degree. If we have the right amount of people and the right preparation and keep everybody separate, it's doable. But we don't have that pathway there yet. And until we do, I will not be comfortable with anything more than fireworks. And even that, I think, has some measure of risk.
Again, the reason we felt more comfortable about the fireworks is that, it's 40 acres of open space, and because of tradition in the past of people already social distancing, it doesn't require the number of volunteers to put that on as a parade. Matter of fact, very few. One and 2 of his staff, and that's about it. The rest is the pyrotechnics engineers and their staff that come and set it up and they're on. So that's the difference between the two, Rob. Just to answer that question, the number of volunteers is considerably nice. So again, and the other thing too that and I think this is certainly not meant to diminish anything anybody said, but just a reminder that the appointed officials, who include the chief of police and the fire chief, were unanimous in this recommendation. And so they understand the logistics of that as well. And again, I can tell you what my opinion is, and I'm not going to get applauded, but I'm not in support of doing it. You know, you have the ability, when we do an event and do it right, we get people from McCall, from Oregon, from Washington, from, people from, around the valley. You see the license plates, they come from all over. And you're inviting people in the community from places who may or may not have issues. It's not that we're just Caldwell, but that's not where we get people from. We get people from everywhere, which is a great thing. Love it. We've worked 20 years to get people from around the world to come to downtown Caldwell. But this is a unique set of circumstances, and again, my recommendation is that, I was part of the recommendation, but it's your decision. But we need a decision tonight. Mr. Pollard, Mr. Allgood, any comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Pollard.
as you know, I've ridden in that parade ever since I was elected, and I hate to see the parade not be held. However, I also remember what you told me when I first came on council, that the first responsibility of city government is public safety. So I would be in favor of not holding the parade or the event in Memorial Park and just go with fireworks.
Thank you. Mr. Allgood?
I agree with you, sir. I really feel badly. I feel like, Colombo kind of sets the standard for 4th of July celebration, and I feel like we're missing that. But, I just gotta say, I'm very happy that everyone decided to go with the fireworks. I believe, that it's important that we show, our community spirit and our American spirit.
Thank you. All right. It's before you.
Mr. Mayor, just some clarification, because, this is my first rodeo. your organization, if you're appointed officials, that includes city engineer, includes Debbie, it
I can
includes,
rattle them off for you if you like.
but you named two of them that I think are very important in this decision. The chief of police and the head of the fire department are both on that group.
Correct.
And I want clarification in my own mind. Both of those individuals stand in this recommendation that we not both approve. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it was unanimous from the appointed officials, and again, just for clarification, that is, planning and zoning, public works, human resources, finance director, clerk, economic development director, police, fire, attorney, library director, and city engineer. And I'm looking right at you, I didn't. You remember me. I think that covers everybody, so that's the group of individuals that discussed it.
Mr. Mayor.
And again, in consultation with Christine, Wendellsdorf, in consultation with Dr. Zar. And it wasn't taken lightly to make that recommendation. It wasn't just a 2-minute discussion. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, it might help John if when we talk about the police and fire together, we usually call them public safety. And that, I think, is the weight of what you're trying to they are in charge of that for the most part. And I think that's important.
Yeah, thank you for clarification.
Okay, so,
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Pollard,
are you looking for a motion?
I am.
Okay, then I move that, we cancel both the, Caldwell, 4th of July parade, as well as the events in the park, but continue with the 4th of July fireworks activity.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion by Mr. Pollard, second by Mr. Paulson, to move forward with the 4th of July fireworks, but to cancel the parade and the events in the park. And again, that's based upon the conversation tonight and the recommendation of the appointed officials and the health officials. If that is appropriate to add to your motion, Mr. Pollard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Pollard,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Allgood, Wagner,
Oh, you
that
said yes.
that was yes, okay. Wagner,
No.
Hopper, Colson.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a 5-to-1 vote, and I certainly understand all the opinions, and no matter what we do here tonight, it's not going to make everybody happy. Thank you for doing that.
Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that if, by next year, if they have, the medicines and everything that we need, we really plan a meeting or 4th of July.
Define wing dinger. No, we certainly want to do that, and again, thank you for your consideration, and just want to make sure council and we're all on the same board. I have no other items of business before us this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn? So, I have a motion, Mr. McGee, second by Mr. Paulson. Mr. Hopper? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? You're here by yourself. Thank you, we're done.